My name is Morne Venter, and I am the head of school for creative technologies. While I was working at the design studio, I was predominantly working in print. But as I was working there, I could see that, digital design, user interface design, web design, stuff like that was really starting to take off. And it was important to kind of maybe, pivot into that direction. But then I saw an ad for a lecturing position at Open Window, which was in comm design. At that point I was looking for a job. I actually went for an interview on that same day as a user experience designer at a different place, and then also for this lecturing position at Open Window. But weirdly, when I got to Open Window, they said that this position that I wanted to apply for was already filled, and don't I want to apply for the interactive design position, which was what we called interaction design, user experience design back then. And then I applied and I got the job. And I think that was maybe the universe trying to tell me that this is the route that I should be going. So, yeah. Well, the most recent project that I worked in is an art project. Most of my personal projects are fine arts related. I work a lot in painting and things like that. So I got invited to do a Piggy Bank show where all the artists had to create a kind of conceptual piggy bank of some sort. It could take on any shape or size or form, as long as the art piece could take and receive coins and that you can take the coins out of it. But I gotta say, working on this project was a bit like pulling teeth. It was very difficult to conceptualize for me, and it was so slow going. But I eventually managed to put the thing together. Unfortunately, I don't actually have a proper photo or anything that you guys can overlay on this, but that was, I'm very happy that I actually managed to finish that project. So that's probably what I'm proud of right now. I like to explain the Bachelor's of Creative Technologies as follows. In this degree, we give students a technological toolkit with which to solve real-world problems and create solutions that matter, that people love. All of the subjects in our school, whether they are creating digital products or physical products, is geared around teaching students how to think and use technology in order to create products that people love. So our first subject, user experience design, formerly known as interaction design, is all about the conceptualization and creation of user interfaces for digital products. So this is all about creating mobile apps or websites or kiosk interfaces or interfaces for game consoles, smartwatches, you name it. If it's got a screen, it needs an interface, and we design it in user experience design. In this subject, students are mainly focused on the visual design and the information architecture and the expression of the interface, and then they prototype these products. But then on the other side, on the flip side, we've got interactive development, which is where we teach students how to use programming languages in order to actually create interactivity and make actual digital products that work. So where user experience design is focused on the front end and the visual creation and the design systems that go alongside with that, interactive development is all about the back end, the coding, the programming to make things work. And then product design is our subject that focuses on physical products. Now, here it might sound a little bit like an outlier, but there's actually a lot of overlap between product design in a physical sense and our digital subjects. because product designers still have to figure out how do people interact with products? What is the interface of the product going to look like? How does the product present itself? How is it going to fit into people's lives? These are exactly the same question that people ask when they're designing digital products and coding digital products as well. So to recap, we've got user experience design, that's about UI and UX. We've got interactive development, that's about coding and programming, and then we've got product design, which is about creating physical products like furniture pieces and chairs, any physical thing that you can think of, appliances, anything like that. So what sets the creative technologies degree apart from other degrees? I think firstly, it was a milestone degree in the country. It's one of the first degrees that offered this kind of education in South Africa. It was accredited pretty early in the life cycle, and there's been a lot of other programs that have followed suit, but we were one of the first. Secondly, I think that our degree program actually offers a very unique and focused approach to these different skill areas. Whereas I think a lot of other design degrees and technology degrees are very general. I think our degree program allows students to really build a deep and varied skill set in the subject that they choose. And I think a third, more underrated aspect of what makes our degree program unique is the environment in which it takes place. And I have to go on a little bit of a tangent to explain this. I was just yesterday having a discussion with one of our industry partners about developers and the institutions that they come from, and we got onto the topic of demeanor and soft skills, like the ability to communicate, to collaborate, and do all those kinds of things. And at Open Window, one of the biggest things that we promote here is collaboration, cross-pollination between subjects. And I think if you are a digital designer or a product designer or especially a web developer, and you come and study here, you're in a space where you get kind of exposed to so many different types of people, so many different types of ideas, and to a lot of stuff that people, like sciences would call like soft skills, like communication and all of these kinds of things. And I think studying this kind of degree in this kind of environment creates a very unique breed of student that has those soft skills that a workplace is looking for. So graduates of the Creative Technologies degree have a variety of niches that they can move into. The world of digital design, digital development, product design is so huge that there's such a variety of small avenues that isn't apparent necessarily from, a vantage point from the outside. It's only when you start working in the industry that you can see that there's this very specific little niche that I can move into. Like, for instance, I can be the person that picks color palettes scientifically for Airbnb, for instance. Like, that's a really weird little job role. But in general, you can have, if you study user experience design, you can be a UI designer, you can be a design systems designer, you can be an icon designer, you can be, like I said, a color palette manager, you can be a UI animator, you can be a UI researcher or a UX researcher. There's so many varieties of jobs in that space. Then if you're a developer, obviously you get exposed to a lot of different programming languages here. You can become a full stack developer. You can move into web development, mobile app development. If you have an idea for an iOS app, you can totally go and do that if you want to. And then you can also, as a product designer, you can become a jewelry designer, a furniture designer, an appliance designer, a kid's toy designer. I mean, if you can think of a physical product, you can probably make it. And I think the general word for somebody going into industry like this, and this is why we call the degree this, is you can become a creative technologist, somebody that uses all of these combined skills to create products that are greater than the sum of its parts. You can become an innovator in industry. You can literally develop a product that uses the internet to grow plants, or you can develop a product that can speak to the internet and clean your house or whatever. You can design smart objects and smart home systems, integrated home systems. There's so many different things that you can do. So it's not just about the opportunities that the individual subjects give you. It's more about the opportunities that you can make for yourself by getting exposure to all three of these different subjects. The School of Creative Technologies is dedicated to the fourth industrial revolution principles and all of those kinds of ideas that people might have heard. And one of the ways in which we're trying to support this is through the use of our makerspace on campus, where students are asked to go and fabricate 3D print things or laser cut things or whatever it might be. The makerspace on campus is full of machinery that students can use for their projects to make their physical and digital products or their hybrid products or whatever it might be. This includes 3D printers, it includes laser cutters, CNC machines, resin printers. There's just so many vinyl printers, large format printers. So we try and gear our degree program so that students can interact with the makerspace and use that place to not only live out the principles of the fourth industrial revolution, but also to just make really cool products with the cool machines that we have. Generally speaking, I do think that the Bachelor of Creative Technologies degree is probably one of the more technically minded degrees that we have at Open Window. The students that we often see in the course are people that, like things pixel perfect, that have to follow a lot of technical guidelines, especially in the UI, UX and the product design space. All of the things that our students make have certain guidelines, accessibility guidelines, and we have to teach them all those things. So there's definitely a technical mindedness. And there is a perception that this might be less creative, but I think where our balance comes in is that we are so committed to teaching students how to frame problems and to solve problems. And I firmly believe that that's the biggest skill that you as any kind of designer need to learn, is how to be able to find and search for problems, the questions you need to ask to frame that problem and to find a solution to that problem. So we balance our technicality and our creativity by giving students the space to really dig into problems and frame them for themselves, and then come up with creative and interesting solutions using technical guidelines. Just because it's technical doesn't mean there's no creativity. Yeah, so look, when you talk about favorite bands, there's the bands that just stay with you for your whole life, that are like the evergreens. And then there's the favorite bands that are the flavor of the month kind of stuff, I guess in terms of like evergreen kind of bands, I'm still a big Metallica fan. I'm still a big Talking Heads fan, massive. Red Hot Chili Peppers. Talk is also a big one for me. Love that 80s music. And then in the newest space, I love bands like Preoccupations, Dry Cleaning. Those are the two ones that are sticking out in my mind at the moment. A little bit of a post-punk revival kind of thing happening there. So that's my answer, and I'm going to stick to it now, but I can talk about this for a long time. Oh, and also I've recently discovered a lot of pop. Like Jessie Ware, I'm really loving her stuff. And for some reason, every time I'm driving, I hear songs on the radio. I'm like, this is pretty cool, and it's always Dua Lipa. So now I'm a fan, I guess. Our degree program is absolutely geared in everything that we do to allow students to display their work in the best way possible. Every subject is brief-based. which means that students receive a creative brief of some sort at the start of the term and then have to execute that brief and come up with a tangible product at the end of the day. And we ask them to really think about what that product does, what it solves, and to showcase that product in the best possible manner. A big part of this is that we also ask students to put this into a portfolio that we evaluate in the mid-year and at the end of the year. It's a big part of being able to study here is being able to communicate about your work, to be able to showcase your work and get across the idea of what this product does, whether it's digital or physical. Our products are usually pretty complex, so students have to really work at explaining simply what their products do and how they work. And also there's a lot of events that we send our students to. One of them that I'm thinking of is the Behance evening, where students go and showcase their portfolios, get feedback from industry professionals. So I think that literally every single thing we do, the format in which we teach and how we structure the hand-ins for the students, all of those things are geared towards making projects presentable and putting together a portfolio of work that you can take to an employer and show them what you've done. I always like to listen to podcasts. I love video game podcasts. I love running to them and I love sleeping to them. I think my favorite video game podcast is something like Into the Ether, Triple Click, The Besties. Those three are pretty good. But then if you go a little bit more into the life advice, stuff to think about, I like stuff like The Knowledge Project, and Honestly with Barry Weiss is pretty good. The Ezra Klein Show is pretty good. That leans a bit more into politics, but we're not going to talk about that. And then I also like everybody, you like a good story, like the true crime stuff. I think one of the best true crime ones that I've listened to is called Into the Dark and Bear Brook. Those two are very, very good, very comprehensive. It's very important to us in the Creative Technology School to have strong ties to industry. So that's important because we want to benchmark our educational curriculum with the skills that are sought after and the changing industry landscape. So we often sit down with mentors and have discussions with industry partners about what's important now, what technologies are they using, what are the skills that they're seeing is becoming important, what have they noticed about our students, stuff like that. So we definitely have a relationship with industry in benchmarking our curriculum. But in addition to that, we also have relations with industry where they come in and they sponsor a lot of the cool events that we have. For instance, we recently had the Microfighters event that was the battling robots that was sponsored by Glue Code. And then we are having the upcoming hackathon for our students, which is an annual event for our school, and all the second and third year students have to partake, and we have sponsor partners that come in for that as well. So just a small sample of the list of partners. We've got Stackworks, we've got Glue Code, Retro Rabbit, Lucky Beard, DVT, there's Accenture, Jack Studios, those are, they're not necessarily sponsors, but they're industry partners. A lot of our students go and work in places where they carry our name forward, and we kind of link up with them in that way. So that's just a few. We've had so many sponsors, but I'm definitely working day and night to have better links with our sponsors and have those conversations. So if you're a sponsor, you can reach out. This is actually a difficult one because it's very difficult to have a comprehensive list of every digital resource that's available for students. And honestly, students are so prolific at finding ways to be lazy that they find the resources faster than I do. To be honest, it would be folly for me to try and suggest a list of resources. Maybe I can give them some academic readings, but in terms of the digital resources, I think the students are quicker on the draw than I am. But generally speaking, I mean, Figma is an amazing design program that has a lot of amazing plugins that just like cover the gamut of everything if you're in UX specifically. For developers, unfortunately, that's not my depth of knowledge there isn't as deep as I would like it to be. But I guess, you know, ChatGPT is going to take all of our jobs. So like I would suggest ChatGPT to everybody. Yo, I don't know if I have a favorite snack. I always have a sweet tooth. You know, like I love a good cookie or something in that line. But I suppose something that I have on a most days basis is probably coffee and then maybe some wine every now and then. Yes. Oh man, I think hobbies are so important. I often, when people seem very unhappy to me, my first question is often, but do you have a hobby? I don't know, maybe that's pretty reductive, but I think hobbies do a lot for people. Some of the hobbies that I have, I've got board gaming. I'm very big into board gaming. Obviously, I play video games. I think my whole board gaming or my whole hobby life has been taken over by Zelda. Tears of the Kingdom now. And then I also play a little bit of music, like I can play bass guitar, so I like to just kind of play my bass every now and then. Cooking, I think if you're a student, you have to learn how to cook for yourself. It's so important to learn how to cook from scratch, and cooking is a bit of a hobby of mine as well. So those are, I think, 3 or so of them, yeah. I agree, but it's also a hobby, like how you enjoy it, you know. Yeah. And then I also enjoy mangas and comics. Big fan of Berserk, so reading that at the moment again. If I had to give students advice that wanted to study in the creative technology school, but I think advice for any student that's interested in pursuing a career in any sort of design space or any kind of career, to be honest. I think the biggest thing is that you have to learn that knowledge isn't separate. Like we have school systems that teach us that, you know, I'm creative, I can't do math, or I'm creative, I can't do science, or you know, anything like that. I think if you are interested in studying design, the biggest thing is that your knowledge base and curiosity should drive you, because the more you know and the more you're exposed to, the better you can solve different types of problems. So I would encourage students that are in school still and looking to study design or art or anything like that, don't shy away from different spaces, you know, like look into science, do maths, struggle through maths, learn it, you know, learn how to think in that way, learn how to think in a scientific way, learn how to think in an economic way. And when you have all of those different spheres of influence on your mind, the types of solutions and the type of creativity you're able to make is so much vaster than just focusing on one single space. Art itself is not the answer here. Everything else informs the solutions and the art or the designs that you're making. So my advice, I suppose, would be is don't cut yourself off from spaces, you know, like learning spaces and different fields just because you think that because you're creative, you're not meant to enjoy or look into those things, or that you can't do it. I think challenge yourself and expose yourself to those spaces, because there's valuable thinking and problem-solving skills there.